So, there's this growing shadow in the software world, right? It's a problem that's so new, we're only just starting to put a name to it, and that name is dark code.
And this quote, man, it just hits the nail on the head. Seriously, just let that sink in for a second. We're talking about critical code running in production at companies you and I use every single day, and nobody, from the junior engineer all the way up to the CTO, can really explain how it works. That's wild.
Okay, so what's super important to get here is that this isn't your typical buggy code or technical debt. No. This is a whole different beast. Dark code is code that a human being never understood, not at any point. An AI spits it out, it passes all the automated checks, and boom, it's shipped. That whole step where a person actually understands the code, it just gets skipped entirely.
So you've got to be asking, how on earth did we get here, right? What's going on that's making this problem explode so fast?
Well, it's basically a perfect storm of two massive trends colliding. First, you've got AI just pumping out tons and tons of code that, let's be honest, is inherently kind of hard for us humans to wrap our heads around. Then, at the same exact time, there's this insane pressure to ship features faster than ever before. You mix those two things together, and suddenly, understanding what you're building gets completely separated from the act of building it. And that is a dangerous place to be.
And look, don't make the mistake of thinking this is just some tech problem for the engineers to sort out. This is a C-suite, board-level problem. It's about your entire organization's capability. I mean, think about it. If you can't explain your own systems, you're looking at huge business liabilities, not to mention regulatory nightmares. This really changes the whole game of what it even means to build software today.
Okay, so naturally, when a problem like this comes up, we all start looking for the easy fixes, right? The low-hanging fruit. But the thing is, the most obvious solutions, they just don't work. Let's dig into why.
So, the first gut reaction from pretty much everyone is, hey, can't we just observe it better? You know, the idea that if we just throw enough dashboards and monitoring tools at it, we'll eventually figure out what's going on.
But here's the thing, and it's a big one. Observability is not the same as comprehension. Don't get me wrong, better telemetry is fantastic. You absolutely should have it. But all it does is tell you what is breaking. It doesn't tell you why. The code itself, it's still a total black box. All right, so if just watching the system more closely isn't the answer, what's next? Well, the next logical step is better tooling, right? Let's just build smarter pipelines, put more guardrails on the AI, and fence it in.
And again, just like with observability, better pipelines are a good thing. They for sure reduce risk, but they don't solve the core problem. In fact, they just add another layer of complexity. Now, when something breaks, you're not just troubleshooting the dark code, you're also troubleshooting the pipeline that pushed it out.
So this brings us to the third and honestly probably the most common response out there. You just YOLO it. You just ship the code into production and accept that, yeah, we don't really get it, but we'll figure it out if and when it blows up.
And here's the really tricky part. The stronger and more capable the AI gets, the more tempting this just ship it attitude becomes. It feels safer, like, the AI can probably fix it later. But this creates a massive ownership vacuum. When code just appears from everywhere, you end up with distributed authorship, but absolutely zero accountability. No one owns it.
Okay, so if all the obvious fixes don't really fix anything, then what do we do? Well, the real solution has to be a lot more comprehensive. It means we have to stop treating this as a simple tech glitch and start treating it like the deep organizational problem it is. And the way to tackle it breaks down into 3 key layers. So, these 3 layers are designed to work together. The idea is to first force understanding before any code gets written. Second, make our system self-describing. And third, create a brand new kind of quality check called a comprehension gate. Let's start with layer 1, forcing understanding. This is all about discipline. Before a single line of code even exists, it means you sit down and you write a clear, detailed spec of what you want to build. That spec isn't just a document, it becomes your test, your evaluation criteria for whatever the AI generates. And hey, there's a great example of this. After a huge outage, Amazon actually rebuilt its internal tool, Cura, to force developers to lead with the spec. It's a total mindset shift.
Okay, layer 2 is all about making your systems self-describing. The goal here is to get the understanding out of people's heads and embed it directly into the code base itself. So you'd have structural context. Think of it like a manifest for every module that answers the simple question, where does this thing fit? And then you need semantic context, like behavioral contracts that clearly spell out, okay, what does this piece of code actually do?
And that brings us to the final layer, the comprehension gate.
You can think of this as a brand new kind of automated check that basically acts like a virtual senior engineer on your team. It's the filter that asks those really important, tough questions a human expert would ask, like, hey, why did you pick that dependency? This gate forces the code to be legible, it makes it accountable, and it creates this amazing feedback loop to make the next bit of AI-generated code even better.
So look, I hope it's becoming really clear that this whole dark code thing isn't just a niche problem for your security team or a headache for your engineers. This is something that touches absolutely everyone in an organization.
So, what's your role in all this? Well, if you're a founder, building with code that you actually understand, that's a huge competitive moat. It builds trust. If you're a senior engineer, think of these tools as a way to scale your own expertise. For you junior devs out there, learning to ask the right questions to fight dark code is how you fast-track your career. And hey, if you're a vendor, you need to start asking your partners some tough questions. Demand transparency about what's under the hood.
Look, at the end of the day, nobody's hitting the brakes. AI is an accelerator, and that's not a bad thing, but that speed brings with it new responsibilities. So I guess the question I want to leave you with is this. Your organization is moving faster than it ever has before, but without understanding your own code, are you really sure you know where you're driving?